After a breakup, almost everyone thinks I need closure. And I'm making this video because closure is not the answer. The thing is, when you chase closure, you will probably get stuck. Because when you chase closure, you're outsourcing your own healing. You're hoping that one sentence, one conversation will help you ease the pain, will give you the answers, will allow you to move on and move forward. This is not what happens in real life, unfortunately. So I'm here to debunk some of the myths around closure. We're going to discuss the things that you should be doing rather than seeking closure. Because at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about moving on. It's not about getting your ex back. It's finding how you can use this breakup to grow as a person, to design the right relationship for you, and then explain exactly what you need to do. Before I explain why we all crave closure, just a reminder that you can take the free assessment to assess whether you have any chance of getting back with your ex. Because right now, maybe the closure is about getting clarity on whether you should or whether you can get back with your avoidant partner. Have a look in the description. The assessment is totally free and you get result right away in your inbox. So why do we crave closure? It's starting with the pain. Because we are suffering, because there's something in comfort, a pain, depression, anxiety. We want to solve this, to ease the pain as quickly as possible. And so we feel, that's why what I want to debunk today, we feel that closure will solve everything, right? You have to understand, because I see that almost every day, this quick relief won't allow you to heal. That conversation that you're putting on a pedestal will not help you to heal. And as I said in the intro, what you're doing is outsourcing your peace. And to whom? To someone who's probably hurt you the most recently. One thing I want to have a conversation about is this idea that maybe nowadays it's very hard for us. Our generation, when I say our generation, could be people a bit older than me, with the rise of internet and access to information, it's very, very hard to accept that we can't get an answer, right? We think I deserve an answer, right? Because I'm involved, because I deserve an answer. So there's this very interesting article. I don't want to spend too much time reading an article. I'll put the link in the description. But the thing is, the idea of this article is that we hate uncertainty. And so when, as a species, so when we are facing uncertainty, our brain will automatically try to create explanations to fill the gaps in the narrative. Guess how we fill the gaps? With our insecurities. So that's why we will paint a very black thing, or actually sometimes people will project things very positive and completely unrealistic. For example, about the chances of them getting back with their ex. That's why I put together the assessment that I mentioned earlier, is because sometimes it's very hard to be objective on your own situation. So that's why when you speak with someone, with a good friend, with a therapist who actually doesn't know you, doesn't know your partner, they will give you potentially a better view of the situation than you. So the thing is that craving for answer, this idea that we need to avoid ambiguity, is something really at the core of who we are as human beings. And so what happens is when we're under stress, we have this drive to get those quick answers, right? Get those quick answers, and they define the whole narrative. And that's why, so the article is very interesting, that's why rumors, fake news will spread way faster than it is to correct them. Rumors, fake news, anything about complotism, there's a situation, I can't explain it, so I'm going to try to build a narrative. And sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not, but I will try to build a narrative to help me bridge the gaps between the gap. So as I said, maybe right now it's a generational thing. We want answers. We want answers right away. I have a question, I ask. I Google it, I ask on ChatGPT, I have the answer in seconds. And even sometimes when you're on ChatGPT and it takes 10 seconds to answer, you're frustrated. So just think like 5 years ago, what did you do? Right? So again, understand that the way you process information, the way you see this reality is not necessarily in line with who we are as human beings and how is designed your brain. So just a quick maybe step on the side around this idea of we need an answer right away. And I think for me, one value of trying to get closure, or actually trying not to get closure, is building that strength around tolerating the unknown. It's very hard, it's almost philosophical, but it's the idea, it's acceptance that things could be ambiguous. Things can remain unclear. And we need to accept that the world is complex, that your partner is complex. They are neither evil or the best person, right? So it's finding this and shifting a little bit your mindset towards this. Now, 4 mechanisms of why chasing closure backfires. As I said, the need for closure is getting premature, rigid conclusions, right? We're going to chase an answer at all costs because silence is so hard to deal with. The second element is the Zeigarnik effect. It's this idea of unfinished business. And we have such a hard time to let go of things that we haven't finished. When we break up with a partner, it feels, especially if your partner decided to end the relationship, we feel, but we never really tried. We had a problem, yes, I do agree, but we never really tried. We finished that project. This is where we need that closure. Right, let's try again and see whether it works or not. Third one, which is very typical of people who have an anxious attachment style, is this element of rumination. Thinking, there must be an answer, and I'm going to analyze the past. I'm going to analyze our conversations. What you're doing is you're steering. You're steering the pain. When you ruminate, you're actually creating anxiety. So if you were to create anxiety from scratch, in sort of the recipe for anxiety is to ruminate on things you can't solve. So if you ruminate on the past, things where part of the answer is with your ex, you will continue to ask the questions again and again and again. And rumination equals anxiety. So if you're anxious, if it's very hard for you to deal with this breakup and you're chasing that closure, it's mostly because you are ruminating on things. The other one is suppressing things. It's this idea of, I don't want to deal with that. Right? The pain is difficult. I don't want to be in pain. So I'm going to dismiss things. That would be more of an avoidant reaction. So for example, if you dated an avoidant and you feel they don't care, you feel they're okay, it's because they are suppressing things. They won't get closure this way. That's not going to heal and help them move forward or make the right relationship decision in the future. They're just pushing away, and it's going to delay the process. That the 4 reasons closure can backfire. The one thing about the unfinished task. The thing is, psychologists have found that when we don't finish something, it's almost as it haunts us, right? We feel like, I can't think. It's so hard for me to process or to start something new if I haven't finished it. And that's why, for example, TV shows, previews, trailers, etc. They're very good at teasing you. The cliffhangers, when you watch Netflix, the last 30 seconds of the episode is about, he's dead. And then you want to know what's going on. And then you continue, etc. And you binge watch TV series. I think a relationship is in a way the same. When the breakup is a bit confusing, when you didn't see it coming, when you were blindsided, what happens is you feel like, hold on, and I want to know what's next. You're just cutting through the story halfway through. I want to understand what's going on next. So the thing is, you can also leverage this quick tip in terms of productivity. When you want to do something, you just like start something, start a difficult task. And I think in the context of healing after breakup, sometimes it's about doing different things, learning a new hobby or things like that. So starting is very, very helpful, because once you start a task, it's very hard to stop. You might stop it because you have other things to do, but because you've started, you would be 20 times, twice as much motivated to finish this task. So the point is, again, it's about this, the same way we want answers. Understand that we are surrounded by cliffhangers. TV, social medias, my videos. When I make the intro, I try to introduce what we're going to discuss. So you watch more of this video, right? That's the game of YouTube. The point is to, again, find that resilience, be able to step away, take some distance, and not be sort of the slave of your brain, of your cognitive biases. Always zoom out and figure out, what do I want? What's helpful? What can I do? What can I design? Who should be with me? What sort of support system do I need to solve my problem? Some behaviors that look like closure, but that actually are not. The sort of essays, letters, things where, you ask, where do we stand? I still love you. Of course, I'm not saying you shouldn't think about those things. That those thoughts are not valid. What I'm saying is that won't help you to heal. Also, when you fish for explanations and then you replay for weeks, you try to make sense, because one thing you need to understand, the conversation that you'll have with your ex, and specifically if they're avoidant, will be disappointing. Always. And that doesn't mean that you won't make any progress with them, or whether that will prevent you from moving on, but you will be disappointed. I think we put a lot of, we idealize this first conversation, and for me it's just one data point. And I discuss later in the video towards the end, what really matters is not that point, it's not that conversation. We make a big fuss about this conversation. No, what comes after is more important. It's one data point out of 20, 30, 50 data points. Same as the fishing for explanations, like the cause, and over-analyzing again and again. One thing that people do as well is sharing how happy they are right now, how unaffected they are from this breakup. You're just lying to yourself. So maybe you want to lie to your ex, okay, fair enough, but you're lying to yourself. And that, again, won't help you to find the right answer, to heal and move forward. So closure is the wrong tool for the job. As we discussed, the real reason we want closure is because we want to ease the pain. That's the only thing. And we have this idea, this belief that this and only this will solve all the problems. That's the silver bullet. And also this idea of, I need more conversation, I need more time with my partner, because more time, more conversation, less pain. In reality, the only three things that will help the pain to ease is time, its structure, and its boundaries. It's not one just last talk that would define this. It's taking those three elements. And your goal, your role, your real power is to create that safety yourself. Not relying on your ex, not only relying on your therapist. So as a therapist, I know people somehow rely on me, but I don't want them to rely on me. I want them to be empowered to find the answers themselves, to build the systems themselves, right? So it's, and maybe you'll never be clients with me, but I want, by watching this video, for you to also be empowered, right? The problem with closure is that we outsource. I'm outsourcing my well-being to someone that I cannot control, someone who hurt me a lot, someone who potentially at this stage refuses to engage with me. So many things, right? You wouldn't bet your life savings on something where you have those criteria of things like I can make sense of this situation, right? So it doesn't make sense, and that's why you need to shift around control, around safety that you actually can own, can control. I see 3 major myths around closure. If they explain, if I understand their psychology, I'll heal. This is what I see. Those explanations might fuel rumination because it's their point of view. You might disagree, and you can disagree forever. Their understanding of their own psychology is limited. So even they don't necessarily know why they took this decision. Another myth is around like this one, I just need one conversation, one coffee date, and I will close everything. No. That conversation might reopen things, right? Again, you're trying to get something, and that thing is not something you will get from a conversation from your ex. It's something that you get from self-reflection, from reinforcing strong boundaries with them, and obviously a bit of time to heal, because reflection, setting up boundaries is something that takes time. It's not back. From one day to another, you're a new person. The other myth is around like more sharing, more relief. No, I think the problem is, there's no correlation. It's not because you'll have long letters from them that you'll get all the answers. Again, it could be even more confusing because you can ruminate on more words, on more things, etc., etc. This idea of myth is to really, again, I want to debunk, and we idealize this idea of closure, and I want you to stop. Please stop idealizing. I need closure. You don't need closure. Or at least it's not something, if we were to redefine this term, it's not something you should get from someone else, that you should outsource to someone else. These are cases when closure talk can help. You regulate it. You build a system to manage your emotions. You also have good sort of healthy habits, sleeping, feeding, eating, being active, etc. In other words, you're not using this conversation to soothe yourself, to heal your wounds. You already healed those wounds, right? So it's a different shift from I need this conversation to heal to I understand a lot about myself, and I'm in a position to assess whether we're right for each other. Right now, I'm in a position where I know my investment in the relationship. I know what I need. I know what I don't need. Now I'm just assessing. I'm not just seeking closure. That's why it's also very important to be quite succinct. One question, one outcome. Usually people have so many things I want to discuss, so many questions. If you approach that type of conversation with your ex this way, this will backfire. That's why I recommend short conversations. When I say 10 to 15 minutes, it doesn't mean that you should meet up with them for 10 to 15 minutes and then go on. Maybe it's going to be half an hour, small talk, 10 minutes of questions, and that's it. And you let go. Okay? Also, this conversation needs to be not under pressure. So if you create that sense of safety with your ex, and they are in a mindset of we collaborate, I'm not feeling judged, I'm not feeling pressured, I just want to explain my side of things, because I care about you, because I don't want you to, that's fine. Right? But if you pressure someone to get an answer, again, this will backfire. and that won't work for you. As I said throughout this video, real closure is internal. The objective is reaching a form of acceptance. It's hard, it's painful. I'm disappointed about where we are right now. I didn't see it coming, etc., etc., but I will get there. I can tell you this with a lot of confidence because that's what I do every single week with my clients. And I don't have any clients who are not able to move on. It's not because I'm an extremely good therapist, maybe I am, but it's just a question of if you have the right structure, the right system, you will do it. Everybody moves on. The only difference when you have the right support or not is how fast you can rebound. The way you can accelerate the process is this idea of meaning making. Shifting this, the world is falling apart, to this is a very painful situation. The person who will, or myself, my version 2.0, after this breakup, will be so strong, more mature emotionally, etc., etc. And this idea of flexibility, as we discussed, the Zeigarnik effect, the idea that we can't let go when we don't have an answer, being flexible. There's a concept called minimal impact resilience that has been studied for people who've been through, especially kids, being through very, very difficult situations. And the kids who grew up successful, stronger than their peers, are the ones where they manage to develop this idea of meaning. I have a purpose. I know where I want to go. And this idea of flexibility. I know it's not a straight road. I know there'll be ups and downs, and I can adapt. I'll probably make another video just on this, but I didn't want to do a 2 hours video. And another element is environment. Environment plays a big role. So there's the inner world, but there's also the external world that will affect your day-to-day. So whether it's sleeping habits, being active, social, having the right support system, etc., etc. If you only do this, that's the thing is, people sometimes, I'm going to the gym and I don't see any result because you're not also doing the internal work. I, for example, struggled with this idea of building intimacy, working on through my insecurities, etc. And I've tried just going to the gym, it didn't work. I'm the kind of person who needs someone to talk to and to exchange, etc. I'm not saying that everybody needs that, but I think it's helpful if you feel stuck. Find, again, the right support. Maybe it's a community, maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's someone you see locally, etc. It doesn't have to be me. I'm not saying you should book a call with me necessarily. The point is to, again, figure out your situation, trying to assess what do I need right now, and test. For example, if you're not sure whether you want to work with me or not, or whether you book a call, you discuss with that person, you assess. If you want to start a new sport, just sign up to a class. You go on ClassPass, for example. It's not a promotion or whatever. ClassPass is an app where you can subscribe and basically you pay a monthly thing and you can access any classes locally. And you can try yoga one day, Pilates one day, etc. I don't know what I'm talking about. But the thing is, assess, test, and see what works for you. That's the only thing I want you to get away from those videos is really to take action. The insights, the learning, great. Now it's your time to take action. One thing you need to understand is this idea of ladder. The way we see closure is this big thing. Silver bullet, giving me all the answers. When you're trying to reclaim this narrative, see it as a ladder. The way you engage with your ex, the way you potentially repair this relationship. It's about, for example, talking about the logistics. Being warm but not too much. Maybe sending a voice note, then a call, then a video call, then seeing each other. The point is to mirror their pace. Most people make the mistake of we're back in touch. Okay, so now I'm going to lead the way. and I'm going to be the one suggesting because I want to ease the pain as quickly as possible. And it's by seeing them, it's by having that conversation that I will heal. No, you've built that emotional resilience. You know it will take time. And you know time has no importance somehow up to a limit. Because you know right now, it's just a question of assessing. So the work that I do with my clients, for instance, yeah, they can get back with their ex. That's not a problem. The point is assessing whether they should. And when they start working with me, I can't answer that question. Right? And they can't. Right? So the point is to, okay, how can I present myself? How can I create the right sort of conditions, the right relationship? I call this a secure base because it based on the work from John Bowlby. Creating a secure base and then exposing your partner, your ex, to this secure base. And you review. You review. Again, as I said, it's not one data point. It's looking at the trend, the conversations, the tone, the non-verbal cues when you see each other, etc., etc. Boundaries are very important in that process. Because I see a lot of people sort of, okay, we went back in touch and they are back with a suboptimal relationship where their partner is uninvested, where it's one step forward, two step backward. So it's shifting from bargaining, we're never gonna, I need to get them back at all costs because I'm no one without this person, because I need the relationship more than anything. They need to earn your respect. And if you want to do that, you need to earn, you need to build some form of self-respect. Understand that boundaries will create the closure that you were trying to get in the first place. Boundaries are not punishment. They're self-protection. Right? It's very hard sometimes to, I don't want to be assertive. You can do it. Trust me. Just follow my step. Please, please, please. This idea of self-respect will and must outweigh the fear of loss. So if the breakup is very recent, it's very hard to conceive this. If it's been few weeks, few months, now it's your time to feel, why am I stuck? How can I regain self-respect? And establishing those boundaries will reinforce this self-respect. And this fear of loss, it's something you need to work through, to work on, in order to let go of your insecurities, in order to stop this narrative, this little voice in your head around, I'm not lovable, I'm not going to find anyone, etc., etc. Your closure is an act of self-respect. You don't need their blessing to move on. You don't need their validation. Saying no, saying it's enough, is way braver than waiting for an answer, waiting for your phone to ring. Healing is also about remembering your own values, right? It's self-centered. We're not outsourcing, it's self-centered. What do I want? What matters to me? What are the things that are non-negotiable? And when you understand this, and you're not so much prone to your impulse, your cognitive biases, the pain will fade faster because you're going to stop chasing the shortcuts. The reason you're struggling right now is because you're trying to reduce this time in pain to ease the pain. The challenge that you have is that this perceived shortcut is a dead end. Follow exactly what I explained, and you'll see in 1 week or two, you'll feel better. In 1 week or two, you'll gain more clarity. If you have any question, let me know. If you found this video helpful, don't hesitate to subscribe and like this video or share to anyone you love and who might need this. I'll see you next time. Take care.